tonight on Elon Local News.
One Owlman's organization is helping community members access mental health resources.
It's been 21 years since September 11th, 2001, and people in Graham are making sure the day lives on for those who are too young to remember.
Elon Esports traveled to Raleigh for a statewide Super Smash Bros. Video game tournament and saw success in ways other than a win.
Those stories and more.
Elon Local News starts now.
Live from the Jane and Brian Williams studio at Elon University School of Communications, you are watching Elon Local News.
Good evening and welcome to Elon Local News. I'm Haley Phelps.
And I'm Margaret Faust. Thank you for joining us. The first Pfizer booster clinic on campus just wrapped up today in Alumni Gym. Case numbers for this week are set to be released tomorrow, but as of now, there are 17% positivity rate on campus. Last week, there was a reported 378 cases on campus. Senior Katie Trangooch says she has had COVID-19 twice and says getting a second booster shot makes her feel more protected.
Obviously, being sick is awful, but the scariest part about me for COVID was always giving it to someone else. That was the part that caused me the most anxiety. So if I could prevent myself from getting it and then spreading it on, that would be totally worthwhile to me.
Junior Gwen Webster says she also got the shot to feel protected, and having a clinic on campus is beneficial for her.
I think it's really nice that they do these booster clinics because I think it encourages more people to get the booster, and then also just makes it easier all around because you don't have to carve out ton of time out of your day to go get it.
If you missed today's clinic, there are 2 more chances to sign up. The next one is this Friday from 11 to 7 p.m. After that, there's one on September 23rd from 9 to 4 p.m.
As another week of parties begins today, students have questions about what to do if they are stopped by the police, especially since at least 38 students have been cited for underage drinking and open containers since the school year started. Joining us live to discuss students' rights is Professor Steve Friedland. He specializes in constitutional and criminal law, among other things. Elon Law Professor Steve Friedland, thank you so much for joining us.
So I want to start by asking, when a student is stopped by the police, what are their rights as students?
So, you've asked me.
We're having some technical difficulties with that, Elon Law Professor, and we will figure that out for you shortly. So my question to you, Professor Freeland, is when students are stopped by the police, what are their rights as a student?
Well, that's a very good question. And the first thing I would say is this is about the Constitution. The Fourth Amendment to the Constitution says there shall be no unreasonable stops, searches, or seizures, and really focusing on searches and seizures. But that includes stops because that is a kind of seizure. The Fifth Amendment talks about the privilege against self-incrimination, so that involves statements. So our Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, limit what the power of government can do. And when I say government, we have 2 governments in this country, federal and state. So when you hear woo, 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 woo behind you, that's the police. And can they lawfully pull you over? Yes, if they have reasonable suspicion to believe that a traffic infraction has occurred. So if you don't put your turn signal on, or don't have your lights on at night, or have changed lanes in a swerving manner, they can stop us. And they can't do it, though, just on a hunch. When they stop us, they're allowed to ask for our identification, and if they need to, and our driver's license, I should say, and insurance. So when they stop you, my first suggestion is keep your hands up on the wheel where they can see it. And if you have to reach in your glove compartment, tell them, I'm reaching into my glove compartment because that is where I keep my registration, because they might say license and registration, please. And I'm reaching into my pocket to get my license. Let them know what you're doing. And again, keeping your hands visible, especially at night. Can they ask you to get out of your car? And the answer is yes. Under the Constitution, there's been a Supreme Court case that says for their safety, they can ask you to get out of the car, including other members of the car. Now, can they search us when they ask us to get out of the car? And the general answer actually is no. The answer is no, unless they have reasonable suspicion to believe that we are armed and dangerous. That's the only reason they can do what they call a stop and frisk. That's based on a case called Terry versus Ohio. Now, what a lot of people always wonder is, can they now search the car? If generally the answer is no. And if they ask you to search the car, we all have a constitutional right to say no. What percentage of people actually say no? 20 to 30%. Most people will say yes, but you have a constitutional right to say no. And if it's a traffic stop, they can only keep us there.
I see.
For how long a traffic stop should occur, which is
Okay.
around 20 minutes.
Gotcha.
They can't hold us further.
Gotcha. And now these rules that you're explaining for traffic stops, does this also apply for things like underage drinking or open container laws, which we have seen an extra push in by law enforcement in these previous weeks at Elon? What do when police are stopping students for underage drinking and open container, what are their rights in those situations?
So again, that's a good question. The police can stop us when we're walking or for other reasons if, again, they have reasonable suspicion that crime is underfoot. So this can include underage drinking, it can include weapons, it can include drugs. Interestingly, people think marijuana is legal in places like Colorado and Oregon and Washington and other places. And the answer is actually no. It's legal in the state level, but not on the federal level. Well, when it's a law that is enforced, like underage drinking, the police have a right to enforce that law. Now, do they have a right to go into our houses to search for underage drinking? No, unless they are invited in, or again, they have probable cause to believe that there's either a fleeing felon or imminent destruction of evidence.
Well,
So
thank you
if they
so
see
much.
someone and they think it's underage drinking, as long as they have that reasonable suspicion, they can stop, ask questions, and again, likely ask for an identification.
Gotcha.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Friedland. That is all very helpful information. And well, moving on, in a week, Queen Elizabeth is set to be laid to rest after she died last Thursday at the age of 96. Here on campus, Avery Shipp says when she heard the news, she was sad.
Honestly, I was super surprised and also a little devastated. I kind of thought, in all honesty, that she would live forever.
The Queen's 4 children held a vigil for her late this morning in Edinburgh, Scotland. For more information and student reactions, visit our website, elonnewsnetwork.com.
Elon University Student Government Association election results for the class of 2026 will be announced tonight at 7:30 p.m. in Mosley Center. 11 candidates ran for 3 positions: president, treasurer, or secretary. Voting closes tonight at 7 p.m. Freshmen are able to vote for their representatives on Phoenix Connect. The candidates will be sworn in on Thursday's meeting.
Community members in Burlington hosted a mental health summit at North Park in Burlington over the weekend. The meeting was the first of its kind, and I spoke with community leaders about why mental health is a concern and what's being done to help.
But one organization in Burlington used the two to connect with the community and talk about mental health. Community member Joshua Alston is a mental health counselor and musician. Alston hosted the Mind Over Matter conference at North Park Recreation Center. The event focused on 4 components, including community involvement, safety, mental health, and music therapy. Alston says he loves helping people and created the event because he cares deeply about the community.
I've always been told, and my mentors say, meet the need. And when you meet the need, you find the people. And finding the people, you help people grow. Because that's the part of life that we're supposed to help each other grow.
Austin says the Mental Health Summit had something for people of all ages and hopes it left them feeling educated and empowered. Bobby Ruffin is the director of the Mayco Bigelow Community Center, an organization that helped host the event. It's based at North Park, where the summit was held. Ruffin says it is important to have conversations about mental health and make resources easily accessible to the community.
We need to take away the stigma behind mental health and mental health issues, especially in our Black and brown communities.
But the location is about more than just access. Ruffin says addressing these topics are made easier by meeting in a safe space like the park, where the community often meets.
In segregation, North Park was the park where Black people could go. So traditionally, you know, our families feel comfortable here. They have memories here. This is where they have their family reunions. They feel safe here. And so I want to continue to address these topics that we're not so comfortable with by creating a safe space so that people feel comfortable doing that.
Both Austin and Ruffin say they hope to make the event an annual tradition.
October is also Suicide Prevention Month. If you or someone you know need immediate assistance, call the counselor on call at 336-278-2222 or the National Suicide Prevention and Crisis Lifeline at 988. One woman in Graham is helping to fight food insecurity from her own garden.
Most Elon students weren't alive on 9/11. Others are too young to remember it. In an effort to memorialize the day, the Graham's Park and Recreation Department teamed up with the fire department to host a 5K run to honor 9/11 victims and their families. I spoke to runners and organizers about the generational disconnect that comes with 9/11. First, the national anthem and encouraging cheering is how the people of Graham commemorated 9/11. Although it was 21 years ago, runner Michael Ayala says what he learned that day has been applicable every day since.
9/11 was terrible, but what was great in the aftermath was how the whole country came together. And I think it's a good time to remember, A, what we've lost, but B, how good we can be.
Ayala's 10-week-old daughter Gianna wasn't alive yet, but Brooklyn native Helene Cridge was. She took the attack personally.
Just hit me because that's where I grew up. That was my city. I did that too.
Now, she and older Americans are tasked with teaching the next generation what happened. That's what President and CEO of Children of Fallen Heroes Kenneth Watsley does.
Because we need to continue the education and always remember we shall never forget. We can't forget this.
He says building community is a way to teach younger people what happened.
We are trying to gather everybody so that we strengthen the community, you know, and that's the big thing. You know, we should be lifting up each other.
And Ayala agrees.
Absolutely a lesson learned.
He says he plans to teach his daughter American history by being an engaged citizen. Margaret, Faust, Elon Local News. To learn more about what the Children of Fallen Heroes organization does, visit their website, childrenofallenheroes.org.
One local gardener is hoping to address food insecurity in Alamance County, starting in her own backyard. Our Ellis Chandler has the story.
Ashley Thomas is planting a seed in the Graham community. After moving from South Carolina, she realized that diverse food options were limited compared to surrounding cities like Greensboro, Chapel Hill, and Durham. That was 4 years ago. Now, she's using her love for nature to find her niche here in Alamance County.
Gardening can not only provide greater access to some of these more nutrient-dense foods, but it also helps to kind of indirectly teach us about what's out there, what can I eat, and we're more inclined to actually try these things.
Thomas grows over 80 different herbs and over 40 different fruits and vegetables in her garden. She's preparing for the fall season currently by planting vegetables like broccoli, collard greens, and beets.
We're growing all of those things, those cruciferous vegetables that are really good in soups and as side dishes or even wraps. So
Thomas says there's a misconception about gardening in the fall because people assume nothing can be grown because the warm weather is gone.
You can actually get quite a few things that typically just slip under the radar, and we don't realize that the fall and the winter, especially in our hardiness zone or in our climate, they grow the best during that time.
Thomas says there's still changes to make, but students can get involved too. She encourages students to get in touch with their community gardens and to not be ashamed to get food from a pantry or bank.
Food is food, and food should be available for everyone. Food should be accessible for everyone, And as a matter of fact, normalize that. Normalize going with your friends to get the foods that you need.
The garden is a sanctuary for creatures big and small, and Thomas says cultivating her crops brings back just as much healing as what she is able to give from it. Ellis Chandler, Elon Local News.
There's opportunities for students to get involved with food banks and community gardens on campus. Students can check out Loy Farm or Campus Kitchen for more information. And joining us now under the Oaks Live with your Phoenix 5-day forecast is our Amanda Pillig.
Amanda, what can you tell us? What's it like out there?
Good evening, Haley and Margaret. The last few days definitely brought on the rain and humidity, but thankfully for the rest of the week, it's gonna look pretty clear. Today was a continuation of this weekend's weather, though, with a low of 68 and a high of 87, and scattered showers as well this afternoon. The rest of the week does look sunny, with the lows staying in the mid to upper 50s and the highs in the low to mid 80s. Into the weekend, we see the same conditions as the rest of the week. The low for Friday is 58 degrees with a high of 84, and on Saturday, the low is 57 with a high of 81 degrees. That's your Phoenix 5-day forecast. I'm Amanda Pillig. Back to the studio.
Amanda, thank you so much. From on the field to online, our sports director, Mason Willett, joins us live for This Week in Sports when we return. Our sports director, Mason Willett, is at the desk with us now to tell us about what happened over the weekend and what we can expect this week. Mason, fill us in.
Thank you. This season marks a new beginning for Elon senior Matthew McKay as he leads the Phoenix at quarterback of the football team. McKay is now onto his third school during his collegiate career, going from NC State to Montana State and now in Elon. He says it is nice to be near his hometown of Raleigh and receive support from his family, but McKay says his time in the transfer portal was not entirely by his choice.
My past years, just facing some adversity, I felt like I had to move around, just being in the transfer portal.
New to the team, McKay fits right in at Elon, according to men's football offensive coordinator Drew Fulmer. He has been watching McKay since his time at NC State. He says McKay is an experienced player, but it will take time for him to get comfortable in Elon's program.
Things that he's doing here, he's done in his career. It's just a matter of translating terminology. So he's continuing to get more and more comfortable every day. You can see that. So
McKay led the team to its first win on Saturday, beating Wofford 26-0 in a shutout. The first home game is this Saturday at 6 p.m. versus Gardner-Webb. Adapting to a college schedule for any student can seem difficult, but it can be harder for student athletes because of practices and games. We spoke with some to see how they manage the time. Being a student athlete is about balancing one just as much as the other. Elon men's soccer player and junior Sandra Rand says the coaches have a good understanding that they're not just here to play, they're here to learn as well.
Our coaches really understand the student side of it and how that's kind of the main goal while we're here is to get an education.
Duran says letting his professors know that he has a game is pretty easy. He just has to email them ahead of time about missing a class for a game.
A week or two prior and just let them know here's my schedule, I'm going to be gone these days. They would give me a schedule back. Okay, you have until this day to turn it in, or if you could turn it in before you leave, that'd be great as well.
Volleyball player and Elon sophomore Sydney Love says she struggled with her schedule when she first started her career at Elon. But with her academic advisor's help, she was able to allow herself some free time while managing classes and practices.
I think the hardest thing for me was transitioning and we are gone every weekend.
Both say that they won't change anything about how their schedules are set up currently. For more information, pick up a copy of next week's Pendulum. One Elon sports organization is turning a competitive hobby into a real-life competition. Elon Esports sent a team to Raleigh over the weekend to compete in a Super Smash Bros. Tournament. Smash Bros. Is a multiplayer video game where popular Nintendo characters fight one another. Hosted by NC State Esports, the tournament was designed to raise money for multiple sclerosis. The tournament featured more than 80 players from the schools across the state. Freshman Cody Nguanza says he was a little intimidated, but likes to play and wanted to give a tournament a try.
Well, I first played Smash Bros. Brawl with my friend. Pretty much my childhood, one of my favorite games. Never really played it seriously. This is like my first kind of like tournament kind of environment, so I'm nervous, but I am excited.
Elon sophomore Ben Shlonsky says he prepared for the tournament in ways other than just playing the game.
It's not all about just playing the game. It's about watching what other people do, because you learn a lot of, you see someone else do something, you're like, okay, I can copy that. But a lot of it is figuring out a lot of stuff for yourself.
To read more about this tournament, pick up a copy of this week's Pendulum. If you want to compete, tournaments are held weekly in the Elon's Esports Lounge and Global Commons. For updates, scores, and more, check out our sports Twitter, SportsENN.
Hot air balloons made a historic return to Alamance County. We'll see what was up this weekend. It was cloudy skies for most of the weekend in our area, but the sun peeked through long enough for over 20 hot air balloons to fly. The Alcovex Balloon Festival returned for the first time in 20 years this weekend. The veteran-run organization hosted the event as part of a fundraising veterans retreat. ENN was on the ground as the balloons took to the sky.
Well, that's all the news we have for you this evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
For all the news you need to know when we're not on the air, visit our website, elonnewsnetwork.com.
And be sure to follow us on social media at Elon News Network.
Have a great week, Elon.